In the modern day of social media, when you try and keep a message suppressed, those that try to suppress it then suddenly realize that message becomes bigger, wider, and even more people know about it. And many of you will have heard me talk about this Tommy Robinson case and what's going on. Many people have speculated and guessed in the comment section, myself included to some extent, because I didn't know exactly what was going on. So I thought the best thing to do is bring Tommy in himself and tell you what's going on. So Tommy, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, thanks. I'm not bad.
Well, thanks for joining me. I thought people better hear it from you than me guessing and a lot of other people guessing. So lots of people have been guessing in the comments as to what's happened, what's going on. So why don't we start right at the beginning? Because we've got this short video here of this was just before you were arrested, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is the event.
So you were at this event. Everything's going smoothly. You had no warning of anything happening at all?
No, totally. Everything was fine. So when I landed in Montreal, I was held for 3 to 4 hours, and I was questioned about what I was doing here, who I was meeting here. Now, speaking honestly, there was no tour arranged. Yeah, so there was no dates given. I first of all, when I went to Montreal, come to meet Gad Saad. I followed Gad Saad. I've spoke to him first of all 8 years ago. I follow his content, so I was meeting him and his family. I was also meeting, I don't know if you remember, Ensaf Badawi. There was a story of Raif Badawi in 2012 who went on and blogged in Saudi Arabia saying that Christians, Jews and Muslims are equal. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison and 1,000 lashes. Now, at that time, Raif's children were the same age as my children. I have been in contact since that date, 12 years ago, with his wife and children. So I was coming for dinner at their house as well to meet them for the first time. So when I landed in Canada, I was questioned about what I was doing here. I gave them the address where I was staying. They contacted the people I was staying with. And then when I rang Ezra Levant, said, Ezra, I'm in Canada. I have a schedule. I'm staying till the 4th of July. He said, let's do some events. So what the border force was saying is I wasn't entirely honest with my schedule of events. What I explained to them is nothing like this event in Calgary. I landed, I done what I was doing in Montreal, and within 5 days' notice, this was planned in Calgary. So I said to them, it's not like I've deceived you. Nothing entirely planned. I didn't have any concrete, because I also had another group of women that I was meeting in Canada who wanted to host events for me, but none of them were finalised. So, but again, I just said to them, what is the problem with that anyway? Like, you've given me a 6-month pass in your country. I'm here. So, but as I said, I didn't know anything. I'd literally just finished that discussion in Calgary with a crowd, probably 150 people. We'd watched some videos. We'd had some talks about my content, my work, my journalism. And then I was just about to go get a steak, at which point 4 cars swooped up and whisked me away.
So, yeah, the interesting thing to me is when you sat down. Now, I said in my video that they would have sat you down and had lots of questions with you. Some people in the comments said, well, there wouldn't be any need to because you were there on an Irish passport, and so you should be visa exempt. You should be there. I understand you should be there on an ETA, electronic travel authorization, which is a simple. It's a few dollars or whatever it is. Documentation to put your details through. I've seen the form. I've looked at the form. It doesn't. I went through that form. It doesn't really ask you anything on there. So my presumption was that when you arrived, they sat down to ask you some questions.
Yeah, but they didn't ask me much. They just asked me who I was staying with, what was my purpose here, how long would I be here, where I'd be staying. Because my son's godmother lives in Montreal, so they spoke to her. They asked her, is he going to stay at your house every day? She said, no, clearly not. Clearly he's not. So, but at which point then, obviously, I went from Montreal. I landed here. But if I'm honest, the officers don't seem to know. So when they detained me, they took me to the police station or to the immigration centre. And then straight away they were talking about letting me go, which I found really strange. I was expecting to be deported, but literally instantly, and I didn't trust them. So I had a very off attitude with them at first as well. Once they arrested me, I thought, and then I had an off attitude with them at first. They said, look, if you just open up and talk to us, we want to try and find a way to get you out of here. I said, well, why have you got me in it? Why have you got me in here? And then they said, well, basically, we have to look at other avenues of freeing you rather than detaining you. Now, the options are you're going to be detained for 48 hours, then be transferred to Vancouver, to prison, until all of this is sorted. But if you make an agreement with us, and I said, what's the agreement? And at that point, I don't want to go to jail here. They said, you make an agreement. Okay. They said, okay, you're not allowed to leave Calgary. You can't leave this city. I said, how long for? When can I go home? They said, well, you're actually not free to go home. So that at the minute you're not. And I said, what for? Because I haven't been charged with anything. I've got no charges. I've got no charges. But this was in the first evening. So literally within 5 hours, they went and got me a Tim Hortons, which was really surprising as well. Within 5 hours, I was back released. But I was released under conditions to stay in the room I'm in now. I have to stay in this room. And under conditions that I will not leave Calgary. And I will report to the police station 3 times a week. And
so literally again, this room.
Yeah, literally, that's it. So, and then I have to. So literally, then the next day, then we got lawyers involved, and then we went back for a negotiation meeting, which we were there all day, and they seemed very open. So the lawyer come, Ezra come, and Ezra said, "Look, I'll pay whatever bond you want me to pay." Okay, he literally is going to Toronto to give a talk, and he's leaving the country. And that they were said, "Look, will you agree to leave the country on a certain day? Will you come to a negotiation with us?" I said, I showed you my return flight already. I'm already leaving on the 4th, yeah? But then they just wanted to, and then they seemed very open. They said, okay, leave it with us. If we can get a security bond, that helps from Ezra. If you're saying you're just going to go there and then leave. They said the problem is when they look at my previous, I don't really do what I say I'm going to do, which is open. That's what they said. So we need to.
And to be fair, I mean, you can understand why someone would think that. I mean, what we would normally advise somebody if if there's a history of something, then there's a propensity to do something again. But at the same time, they still have to look at the facts of the case and whatever is before them. So, as I said, there's been a lot of speculation as to some people saying you lied on this form or all that sort of stuff. But when I looked at the form, there isn't really an opportunity to lie about anything. It's your details, your address, where you're going, or whatever.
As Irish, you automatically have a visa. You don't have to have one. Like
no, exactly. So I'm talking about the electronic travel authorization, which is you would have filled in some form before you go. It's like a travel document. It's not a visa. If you're up to 6 months, but
and it links your passport. So it electronically links your passport. Now, when I got there, straight away mine had flagged, and it had flagged because at that time I didn't have a return flight, and it had flagged because I'd flown from Copenhagen. So that they were the original flags why they wanted to question me. And before Copenhagen, I was in Spain. Before Spain, I was somewhere else. So they were saying, "Where have you been? What have you been doing?" That's what they were asking me. And what are you doing here? Now today, so that meeting we had the other day, they went to their seniors. We was expecting for them to relax the conditions. They come back and said, "No, basically, we're not relaxing the conditions." Our lawyers then sent them legal letters yesterday to say, we're going to give you the opportunity again before we take you to court. So we want
opportunity to what? To discuss it, negotiate, or
we're in for negotiations today at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
To negotiate, because what it is, and the first things that the officers said when I went down the second day with the solicitors is, look, this has blown up, majorly blown up. I said, well, if you would have just let me come and give I had 3 little talks, small talks, not big, not really publicised either. It's not like we planned this months in advance. There would have been a few hundred people at each talk. There would have been no media attention to this event. You've made it a massive event, and your conditions are definitely trying to limit my freedom of speech in Canada. And freedom of speech in Canada is for everyone, which is what the lawyer said. And then they tried to use the excuse. What the police officer said was, no, if you're doing speaking engagements, you have 5 days. You've done 1 in Calgary. Your date in Toronto is more than 5 days. But then the barrister just said, no, it's 5 dates. It's not 5 days from the first one.
Separate dates, yes.
5 separate dates. So you're actually wrong on that. So if you're
I looked that up as well. So for the benefit of everybody watching that may not have followed that with respect, if you've got a day booked for one event, what I think they were trying to say is you're telling me, not that this is advice, you know that, but what I think you're saying is that you had this one date, one event, and they were saying that you've got 5 days and then that's it, you're supposed to be gone. But that's not true. It's got to be, or it's permitted to be 5 separate dates on, which could be weeks apart or whatever, but so long as it's not more than 5, then you're okay, or you should be okay. And that's presumably what the argument was the lawyer put across.
what the lawyer said. The lawyer said you're absolutely misrepresenting the law there to try and justify your conditions, and that's not the. But they have been. What I will say is, they have been so nice. Yeah, the police officers.
That's good to hear.
They've been so nice, and in fact, they said, "Look, this is above us." Yeah. So this, and on the evening, which is what they said to me, which is I didn't trust them, is, "Look, Tommy, we want to get you out of here. Yeah, we want to get you out of here. We don't want you in here. Right? We want to get you out of here. So just agree to these conditions, and you'll be gone." And I was like, "Really?" So I said, "Okay." So I agreed to sign in. You're letting me go because I expected to be held and deported. They haven't once mentioned deporting me, not once. At all.
Well, that's the other thing. They haven't charged you with anything. They haven't hinted at any charges with anything. They haven't given you any indication of any criminal allegations or immigration allegations of any sort.
No, they just seem to want to agree, which we'll find out today. I'm there in an hour. They seem to want to negotiate an agreement of the date that I leave the country and what I'm doing. And I've told them, I've said, look, just I'll go to Toronto. And where this backfires essentially is like Jordan, if I'm stuck in Calgary, people are now making plans to fly to Calgary. So to do podcast interviews, I done 2 yesterday whilst I was here with Tamara. I don't know if you knew her. Her story's insane. This is the truckers convoy. She spent months in jail for organising a convoy of trucks to try and get the attention of the government over the mandates of vaccines, and she's facing 10 years in prison. So sort of like when I started hearing her story, I started counting my chickens, thinking actually I might be good to get out of Canada.
Yeah. Now, I mean, just to caveat that this is obviously not advice, you know that, but it sounds to me like there's a couple of things going on here. First of all, I think you caught them on the hoof a little bit, unaware as to what's going on because you didn't have the return flight. You hadn't got the events booked, which ironically, I think if they were trying to shut you down, if you did have the events booked, they might have tried to shut those down ahead of time. But because you didn't have them booked when you arrived, they then think that you sprung it on them and didn't tell them about it, perhaps. And then coupled with the lack of return flight, I think they are now in limbo. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think what they've done is they've created this mountain out of a molehill. They've got you and don't know what to do with you, because I think what they've done is they've probably seen that the event that you did was quiet, as you say, nothing really happened and nothing was going to happen. I think I've watched some of your other videos, and I think you understand how you're to conduct yourself when you go there, and I don't think you'd have caused yourself any problems. That's just my view. I mean, sometimes I get shot down for my views, but I call it as I see it, and I think a lot of people like and respect me for that. So that's what I do. I think they've got this wrong, in my view. I think that they've created this out of nothing and taken those bits of information, and they're worried about it. They're worried about what you might be doing and not being able to control it. And now I hope that for the sake of free speech, if nothing else, that these negotiations this afternoon, in an hour, you said, go well, and you come back with something positive.
The problem they've got is that 30,000 students have come here and then all stayed and said they're claiming asylum. Yeah? There is a massive open border migration problem here of criminals coming through their border. None of them are detained or given cities that they're not allowed to leave. Yeah, I actually asked the officers, I said, officers, okay, as you're bringing me into an immigration centre, say, for example, I say right now I'm claiming asylum. Say I do, yeah, because I'm persecuted in my own country. Say I say that. You can't limit the city I'm allowed in. You actually just let me straight out the door, because that's what your policies are under Justin Trudeau. Same as the United States of America. You're not detaining people. You're not putting them in detention centres. So how come I'm being detained and limited my access of which city I can go to and where I can talk, which is what's caused, I think, a bit of an uproar with the Canadian public, is they're seeing you're being very heavy-handed with this British activist who's come here to give a couple of talks when you're absolutely the opposite and people have concerns about immigration and you're not doing anything about it. So I think the hypocrisy, I don't think anyone would mind if anyone who come through the borders was being detained and limited and put in different places. But I said, I'm not asking for anything from you. I'm here to do a speaking engagement. I was here for more than that. I was here, as I said, I've already seen Ansaf. I've got some great videos coming from my contact there with Gad Sad. I was here for podcasts and discussions, but again, totally calm and controlled environments with security, with not that was needed. I've faced no opposition since I've been here.
Yeah.
Apart from the
that's yeah, and that's my impression, really. And I think just to touch on the immigration thing, a lot of people talk about immigration and they get criticized when they criticize immigration. But I think when it comes to immigration, there needs to be rules. It needs to be fair. There's got to be a humanitarian aspect to it, yes, but there still has to be rules to control it so that the borders in the country is secure, and it's this back and forth. And I think one of the problems is, and this is me speaking very freely here, which I don't often give my opinions, but here's one of them. I think that when people do raise criticisms like that, they get criticized for raising criticisms, and then it's just a ping pong match, and actually we get nowhere. And that's what I think the problem is. And I think that in part is what's going on here. It feels to me that you caught them on the hoof with the lack of booking and arrangements, and coupled perhaps with the history, which is fair, they might say, well, hang on a minute, what do we do? Let's just keep him there for now, and we'll figure it out. And that's how it feels to me.
The same, and they're also I don't since I left the UK, I've been made aware that I now face prosecution for contempt of court for a film that I made. Yeah, now some very high-profile individuals in Canada have watched that film, and they're outraged by the fact that I may go to prison for it. And there was the possibility of having a cinema an event by those individuals, not by me, who wish to make sure that there's awareness around this film. So I know the British government and I know the British establishment will do anything they can to prevent the public seeing this film. I've got an injunction that faces 2 years in prison if anyone watches it. They're actually trying to prosecute me under that now because someone in America played the film 2 years ago. So I think if I was going down the rabbit hole, I think that the reason to keep me here would be to prevent the screening of a film that will humiliate the British establishment in the city of Toronto. That's partly what I think may be their agenda. Maybe if they've asked them not to get me to Toronto. Once I was here, they're probably thinking, damn, we can't really stop this now. But even by trying to stop it, they're just going to elevate it. Whatever happens from this point on, it's going to get discussed. Whether I get to Toronto or not, we find out today. It's had the adverse effect, I believe.
Well, there's two things there to follow. The first is a general guidance to anybody watching, and this goes for any court injunction about anything, anywhere. If you know about an injunction and you seek to do what it restricts, you yourself can be held in contempt of court for failing to comply with the injunction. So even if you've just been told about it or you have sight of it or whatever, if it applies to everybody, then you make sure you comply with it. That's my general guidance to everybody watching. The second thing is, and hopefully this sort of round up your thoughts really before you go into your hearing today, but I think with them having you here and wondering what to do, and this Streisand effect, which I opened the video with, it's absolutely true. When someone tries to suppress something in this modern day, like you're here on my channel now, my viewers know I don't have many guests on my channel here. I've got a very good learned colleague, Alan Robertshaw, Art of Law. Yes, it rhymes. He's in the description below. I'll link him down there. He's a great guy to chat to as well. Maybe we'll get a chat with him going as well. But I felt this was right for you to have this say nicely, openly, and with this Streisand effect, when someone tries to shut down a message or whatever, it just gets discussed even more. And so I think the right thing for them to do would be to quietly resolve it, and it will quietly go away. Because from what I can see, I just can't see the threat. Now I don't have all the information they have. They may have something you and I both don't know behind the scenes. There might be, for all we know, there might be some other kind of threats, against you that we don't know about. And all this might be for your own protection. Being the lawyer, devil's advocate, there could be any sort of reason that we don't know about. I've been involved in some legal cases where the underlying point is so far removed from what the public would know that affects the case. And so who knows what it would be. But good luck in your hearing. all I can, guidance to you, I would say, as you always seem to be, just be open, be honest, be cooperative, be nice, and hopefully you'll get the result you want.
Cool, thanks, and yeah, hopefully I'll be in Toronto by tomorrow.
Indeed. Well, come back and let us know how it goes. Hopefully you'll be back on here again.
At least trying to find out when I can come home. So see you later.
Indeed. All right. Thanks for joining me. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.